My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother or some darker people or some poor, hungry people in the mud for big, powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger. They never lynched me. They never put no dogs on me. They never robbed me of my nationality, raped and killed my mother and father. What, I'm going to shoot them for what? How can I go shoot them? Them little poor little black people, little babies and children and women. How can I shoot them poor people? Just take me to jail.
Ali more than held his own against students who had a far better formal education than he.
I'm saying you talking about me about some draft, and all of you white boys are breaking your neck to get to Switzerland and Canada and London. I'm not going to help nobody get something my Negroes don't have. If I'm going to die, I'll die now, right here fighting you. If I'm going to die, you my enemy. My enemy is the white people, not Viet Congs or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of Heroes and Icons. This is, I think, number six program in the short series we're doing on heroes and icons of the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. This program looks at the career of some of our idols, whether they're heroes or icons, or whether they're slightly off-kilter, but we love them here in this program. Just a thumbnail of the highlights of their wonderful contribution and achievements that they made to their community and to the worldwide community as well. This is brought to you with their media in association with Blue Sky Broadcasting and Media Services Limited, and all our programs are up on our YouTube channel, and we have an email you can make comments on to info@theirmedia.tv, and you can check out all our programs on our YouTube channel, which is theirmedia.tv. My name is Pat Barry. I'll be with you for the next 20 minutes or so to give you another glimpse into a world of heroes in this case, and icon, both. And I speak, of course, he was born in Louisville, Kentucky on January the 17th, 1942. And of course, from the collage behind me, from the pictures behind me, you know who I'm talking about instantaneously. I suppose he's one of the few human beings that is instantly recognizable probably in all the countries of the world you go to. You just look at the photograph and most people in any country, I dare say, would recognize the man. The impact that he made, not alone as a sporting hero, not alone as a father or a grandfather and a dad and an uncle and all of that, but as a wonderful, warm, spiritual human being that Cassius Marcellus Clay. He was born in Louisville, Kentucky, as I said, in 1942. And obviously at that time in the United States, segregation was the byword for the day. And indeed, Muhammad Ali was not immune to that himself. And growing up, as I said, in Louisville, Kentucky. And he was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. And his mother was a Grady, and he was referred to as the greatest, that's Muhammad Ali. And as I said, he had one brother, and he was named after his father, Cassius Marcellus Clay Sr. And he had a sister, his father, a sister, and four brothers. And who himself, Cassius Clay's father, who himself was named to honor the 19th century Republican politician and very, very staunch abolitionist Cassius Marcellus Clay, also coincidentally from the state of Kentucky. But you can read about that Clay another time, but we're concentrating on this Clay. Now, Cassius Clay's own father's paternal grandparents were John Clay and Sally Ann Clay, and Clay's sister Eva claimed that Sally was a native of Madagascar. Anyway, now, Ali's maternal great-grandfather, Abe Grady, immigrated from Ennis, County Clare in Ireland, and DNA testing performed in 2018 showed that through his paternal grandmother, Ali was a descendant of the former slave Archer Alexander. Now, his father was a sign and billboard painter, and his mother, Odessa O'Grady Clay, was a domestic helper. and his dad was a Methodist. He allowed Odessa to bring up both Cassius and his young brother Rudolph, later named Rahman Ali, as Baptists. So now, I mean, Ali, he grew up amid racial segregation, and really, when you read about some of the stories, I'm not going to repeat them here, just well known in history. I don't know how some people, I don't know how most people survived it. It's, I suppose, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human being that they made some kind of a living, you know. I mean, his mother recalled one occasion when young Cassius was denied a drink of water at a store. They wouldn't give him one because he was black. That really affected him. And he was also strongly affected in 1955 when he was 13, the murder of Emmett Till with a friend of his, and taking out the frustration by vandalizing a local area. His daughter Hannah wrote that Ali once told her, "Nothing would ever shake me up more than the story of Emmett Till." There again, you can look up that story yourself. And Ali was first directed towards boxing by a Louisville police officer and coach, Joey Martin, who met the 12-year-old. He was fuming over a thief having taken his bicycle. He told the officer he was going to go and whoop the thief. The officer told Cassius that he had better learn how to box first. So there you go. And he began to learn how to box. And he went on. I suppose at the age of 12, he made his amateur boxing debut in 1954 against the local amateur boxer, Ronnie O'Keefe. And he won a split decision. Then he went on to win 6 Kentucky Golden Glove titles and 2 National Golden Gloves titles and an Amateur Athletic Union national title. And eventually he was on the team for the 1960 Olympics in Rome. And there he was boxing in the light heavyweight division, and he won the gold medal, the Olympic gold medal in the 1960 Olympics against, I'm almost afraid to say his name because I have no idea how to pronounce it, but Zbigniew Peters Okoski. And you can look up the record yourself, and forgive me for not being able to say that properly. I've been looking at it all the time. I suppose the more you look at something, the more complicated the story becomes. So there's many stories told about Cassius Slaver when he came back and he was denied sitting down in a restaurant to have a meal from the Olympics, and that he threw his Olympic gold medal into the Ohio River. Some people testified to that, other people say, no, he just simply lost it. Look, we never know now what the real story is, but in any case, there was a replacement medal given to Muhammad Ali, as he changed his name to them, in the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, where he lit the torch to stop the games. Now, as I said, he made his professional debut in 1960. You must remember that the heavyweight division that time, Cassius Slaver, when he started his professional career, he was 18, obviously, in 1960. And an awful lot of these professional boxers, there were no slouches, unlike the farce that we have today, which is sad in a way, of the Olympics, of the heavyweight division today in the world, because really there isn't a decent heavyweight, in my opinion, around today, apart from Tyson Fury. I can't see anybody that's any good myself, you know. And you had a couple of weeks back, you had a glorified light heavyweight beating Anthony Joshua, which really, I watched the fight with my dad, and really, I suppose the less said about that one, the better. But Cassie Slaver started his professional career in 1960, and I'll tell you, between 1960 and 1963, he had a total of 19 professional fights. That's 3 years. That's roughly 6 fights a year. That's a fight every 2 months, to be exact. He defeated all comers, Tony Esperetti and Jim Robinson. You can look up those names yourself. Donnie Freeman, Alonzo Johnson, and George Logan, and a couple of more, which I forget the names. But he also fought, in my mind, one of the better heavyweights around at the time, apart from Sonny Liston, was Doug Jones. Doug Jones is a fantastic boxer. he had everything. He did, he had, he was a boxer, he was a slugger, he could do anything really, this Doug Jones, and he had two excellent, he could knock out with both hands as well, which is, really, I suppose he was a dangerous opponent, but he beat Doug Jones. It was a very, very tough fight. He didn't win to England and beat Henry Cooper. In the 5th round, the fight was stopped because of the appalling cuts that Henry Cooper, all through his own boxing career, Henry Cooper, he suffered appallingly badly with his skin. You could, eventually he had to retire from boxing because, when you get cut so many times in the eyebrows and all along that part of your face, you bring it down a bit of skin to grow on the eyebrow. But really, the poor man. I had the pleasure of meeting Henry Cooper at the Steve Collins fight, the first Steve Collins fight in Mill Street, when he fought our own man here, when he fought Chris Eubank for the world title, middleweight title fight. And I had egg and chips, that's my claim to fame. I had a plate of egg and chips with Henry Cooper, and Jimmy McGee was at the table as well, my dad and myself, and we had a great time. Oh God, it was just a joy to behold in the company of people like that, These are real men, anyway. And the fight with Doug Jones was held on the 13th of March, coincidentally, 1963. And he always said it was his toughest fight. They were the number 2 and 3 ranked fighters in the division at the time. And the number 1, obviously, and the champion was Sonny Liston, or as we said, Charles Sonny Liston. Now, all through his career, which he divided opinions somewhat with his brashness, which was, I suppose, not a cover-up now, I don't know myself. This is my own opinion, observations down through the years. And I remember the fight against Sonny Liston in Lewiston, in Madison Square, in Lewiston, Maine, I think it was, yeah. I forget now on top of my head, but he fought Sonny Liston for the world heavyweight title and in 1964, and he beat him. And he won. It was stunning. At the age of 22, he became world heavyweight champion. Of course, at that time, you were the real champion of the world because there was only one heavyweight division, one body controlling that heavyweight division. Not unlike today, where you have 4 or 5, I think 5 bodies, and you win this version and that version. It's just anyway, it's a bit nuts, but there you are. I'm still a boxing fan, I have to admit. And the fight was later named Fight of the Year by the Ring magazine, which was the Bible of boxing at the time. Nat Fleischer was the editor and writer of that wonderful magazine, the Ring magazine, which was all around my dad's house growing up. We had loads and loads of copies of it in there. Now, it was unusual because in each of the fights, Cassius Clay vocally belittled his opponents and vaunted his abilities. And that's the fight with Jones and Liston. He called Jones an ugly little man and Cooper a bum. Now, the point about this was psychological warfare, the beginning of what we would describe today as psychological warfare against your opponent to upset him and unsettle him, in my opinion. Because looking back at Muhammad Ali's life, really, there's nobody perfect. He wasn't a saint, but I really think when you look at his own background growing up, that these things were not very, very serious. There were psychological warfare waged on his opponents, Anyway, Charles Sonny Liston was considered, and rightly so, because Sonny Liston as well, before he fought Cassius Clay and in Miami Beach in Florida, Cassius Slaver became the main contender for the title after beating Doug Jones. So the fight was listed for February 25th, 1964, Miami Beach in Florida. Now, Liston, if you ever see a photograph of Liston, he was he was a big, strong man, and really there was a lot of on his personal life was very, very sad, but his boxing was good, and he obviously had knocked out everyone. But Liston came to dominance as well when he completely destroyed Floyd Patterson, who was no mean boxer himself, you know, had been heavyweight champion, you know, in 59, 60, that era. And anyway, Floyd Patterson, he knocked out Floyd Patterson with 2 first-round knockouts, you know. And Clay began his psychological warfare against Liston by describing him as a big, ugly bear, and etc. Anyway, we know the rest. Anyway, at the opening bell, Liston rushed at Clay. You can see these fights on old newsreel films and the old VCR, VHS tapes. It's fantastic. I have them all at home anyway. And Clay's superior speed and mobility, anyway, and beginning of the third round, Clay hit Liston with a combination that buckled his knees and opened a cut under his eye. This was the first time Liston had ever been cut in a fight. So at the end of round 4, Clay was returning to his corner when he began to experience a blinding pain in his eyes and asked his trainer to cut off his gloves. Anyway, look, it's been speculated the problem was due to some kind of ointment used to seal Liston's cuts, perhaps deliberately applied to his corner, by his corner to his gloves. Anyway, look, this was all unconfirmed. This was just speculated. And the boxing historian, he's passed away now since, Bert Sugar, said that 2 of Liston's opponents also complained about their eyes burning. Look, we all know that there was still a mob influence in professional boxing at that time in the 60s and 70s. Clay survived the 5th round anyway, and in the 6th, Clay dominated, and in the 6th round, and he really, really pummeled him around the place. And so when the bell went for the 7th round, Sonny Liston stayed sitting on his stool, and Cassius Clay became world heavyweight boxing champion by a TKO. But Liston stated that the reason he quit was an injured shoulder. He had put out his shoulder, and so there you go. Anyway, the rematch was the same, went the same way, and there you are. You had the beginning of the wonderful reign of Cassius Marcellus Clay. Now, as you know, Cassius Clay was a conscientious objector. Parallel to this now going on as well, you had the war. The war was going on in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was really, really a brutal war going on, and Cassius Clay was not interested in fighting for a country where he couldn't sit down and have a hamburger in a restaurant, you know, as Olympic champion. So there were many other reasons as well, you know. Anyway, he refused the draft, and between the years 1960 to 66 would be what you call stage 1 of his career, where he beat everybody who stood in front of him and became world champion. And then from 66 to 70, 71, which would have been the age of 25 to 29 in Cassius Clay's life, he would have been at the prime physical peak of his abilities. He was denied a living from professional boxing by the United States government, and from 66 until he got it overturned in 1971. Now, at that stage, Muhammad Ali, as he was known then, Muhammad Ali was 29, facing into the age of 30, you know, which I suppose today which is not too bad, but nevertheless his best years were really, he was forced to be inactive. He was refused a boxing license in every state in the United States. I often wonder why he didn't go abroad and box. I don't know that myself, but maybe, you know, he was, of course, married as well. He had married 4 times, you know. But anyway, he came back in 1971, and then I suppose the trilogy with Joe Frazier entered the arena. Joe Frazier was the world heavyweight champion at the time. He was granted a license while his appeal was going through in 1970. He got his boxing license back from the City of Atlanta Athletic Commission. And anyway, Ali's first return bout was against Irishman Jerry Quarry on October 26th, resulting in a win after 3 rounds, after Corey, the Jerry Quarry was badly cut, you know. And then a month later, then a federal court forced the New York State Boxing Commission to reinstate Ali's license in the full month after the Jerry Quarry fight. Then he fought Oscar Bonavena, who was a decent boxer from Argentina, in Madison Square Garden in December. And I suppose there was a technical knockout of Bonavena in the 15th round, but he was still good. He was still almost as good as anything around boxing wise. But, you know, from the inactivity of an athlete like Muhammad Ali, really, we didn't appreciate how much it meant until we saw those fights. And then as a result of that technical knockout, he became the top contender against the heavyweight champion, Joe Frazier. Now, he had 3 fights with Joe Frazier, and you can read all about those as well. And I suppose after those 3 fights against Joe Frazier, really, he was never the same. Well, Frazier wasn't any, and Ali was slightly better, but he recovered. And he recovered after the Rumble in the Jungle, and he then fought George Foreman, as we know, the famous in Kinshasa in Zaire, and the Rumble in the Jungle it's referred to. And of course, I'm not going to give you a round by round, blow by blow of that fight, because it has been seen so many times, you know. And now, he was married 4 times, that's Ali, and he had 7 daughters and 2 sons. And, you know, I suppose he became a Sunni Muslim, and also a connection with Sufism as well. That's what he guided his life, you know, that's Muhammad Ali. And really, he was a fantastic, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a fantastic philanthropist as well, you know, that's Muhammad Ali. And I'm seeing that you listen to Heroes and Icons on learnmedia.tv, and all our programs can be cut up with, I suppose, on our YouTube channel here, which is learnmedia.tv, and this is brought to you in association with Blue Sky Broadcasting and Blue Sky Broadcasting and Media Services Limited. Now, Muhammad Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 42 at the age of 42, and really, I think that it was so sad, really. But when you consider that an awful lot of boxers and people who, I suppose, participate in stuff like that, well, they're bound to come to, I suppose, a demise like that, you know. And he became Michael J. Fox, helped him, obviously. Michael J. Fox himself helped him out, you know. And I suppose it was sad in a way to see him not being able to, a big, strong man, not being able to speak, you know, towards the end. And I suppose Parkinson's syndrome was referred to, and he was still active into the early 2000s. You know, he was promoting his own biopic, Ali, in 2001. That year, he also contributed to an on-camera segment, if you want to look back at it, America, a Tribute to Heroes benefit concert. His well-known charitable foundations and his contributions to alleviating hunger in third world countries, particularly in Africa, are well documented. And it's no surprise when you listen to the man. When you read some of his poetry and his inspiring words he wrote, it's no surprise. And in 1998, Ali began working with the actor Michael J. Fox, as I said, who had Parkinson's disease, to raise awareness and fund research for maybe someday they might get a cure, you know. And they appeared before Congress in 2002, and Ali worked at the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's disease to raise awareness and encourage donations and research. And I must say, since 2002, I was reading a bit about it today, there has been some fantastic results. There's no cure, but there's been some fantastic results in slowing down the the disease somewhat, for the want of a better result. You can read about it yourself. I'm not a medical person, so I wouldn't understand all the nuances of it, but there has been great drugs, new drugs on the market, which slows down the disease itself, you know. In February 2013, Ali's brother Rahman Ali said that Muhammad could no longer speak and could be dead within days. Ali's daughter, Mimi Ali, responded to the rumour, stating that she had talked to him on the phone the morning of February the 3rd and that he was fine. On December the 20th, 2014, Ali was hospitalized for a mild case of pneumonia. He was once again then hospitalized on January the 15th, 2015 for a urinary tract infection after being found unresponsive in a guest house in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was released the next day. Finally, Ali was hospitalized in Scottsdale, Arizona on June the 2nd, 2016 with a respiratory illness. Though his condition was initially described as fair, it worsened and he died the following day, that's June 3rd, 2016, at the age of 74 from septic shock. Now, I'll tell you the testament of the man. I'm just looking up for things. It's a testament of the man. His memorial service is reputed to have been watched by over 1 billion people. On June the 9th, 2016, his memorial service was watched, including myself, was watched by over 1 billion people. I mean, doesn't that say it all, really? And he made several television appearances throughout his life, you know. And in September 21st, 2001, he appeared in America, A Tribute to Heroes, which had a 60 million audience watching it. And of course, the Summer Olympics at the opening ceremony, it was reputed that during the lighting of the torch at the Summer Olympics, over 3.5 billion people looked in to watch that. Of course, he appeared with Parkinson on British television, and obviously the 12 million people roughly watched those two interviews that Parkinson did. 12 million. He did a third one in 74 as well, which had more or less the same amount of people, you know. It's phenomenal, his influence. It's phenomenal. There's very little one can say. He carried out his spiritual duties. He applied them to his life in a practical way. And what I mean by that is this: he donated millions to charity organizations, not because of any, but because of the money was. These charitable organizations that he donated millions to were to disadvantaged people from all religious backgrounds. And it is estimated actually that Ali helped to feed more than 22 million people affected by hunger across the world. I mean, he was considered broke at one stage and he had very little money. So he sold his image, I think, for $50 million or something like that to keep, so that he would be able to continue his charitable work, you know. And that was in 1978. So in 2006, Ali sold his name and image for $50 million, after which Forbes estimated his net worth to be $55 million in 2006. And following his death, his fortune was estimated to be worth between $50 and $80 million. No one knows. I think money never mattered that much to Muhammad Ali. Anyone that would look at his life, you know. And it is a testament of the man, the human being. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That was coined by one of the commentators, and Ali had himself, he's not coined by a commentator, Ali wrote that in the poem, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And of course, we're so used to it now that it's gone into modern day English. And also his poetry, people are not that familiar with his poetry, but you should try and check your local library for his books of poetry, which are just fantastic, really, you know. And also his writings in general. And his interviews are widely available on YouTube that he did with many, many people down through the years. His thoughts on inequality, on poverty, on racism and all, segregation and all of that, because he lived it. He lived it. He epitomized one of the most warm, intelligent, brash, loud, articulate human beings that I have ever seen in my lifetime. And he fought, of course, in Croke Park against Al Blue and my God, was he a joy to behold and a specimen of a wonderful human being. But anyway, Muhammad Ali, you know, anytime an interview, even today, comes on television, or an interview with him, whether it's audio or visual, people stop and listen even today. I can say that for certainty. He was such an inspiration, not alone to his own people, but on the world stage. He was just so fantastic. What would the world be today if we could have a few Muhammad Alis with us? I don't know. I'm Pat Barry for LearMedia.tv, and this has been this edition of History and Icons. Very, very small thumbnail of Cassius Marcellus. They changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, as he was known in the second part of his career. The world is, I suppose, poor. I know it's a cliche, but it's very poor without the likes of Muhammad Ali. Hope you enjoyed it. You can catch all our programs on our YouTube channel, LearMedia.tv. Thank you for looking. I'm Pat Barry, and until we meet again, take care and good luck.